The question is, will Josh know what it means?
In 15 minutes.
Live over on the YouTube, per Van Grafton. Now we are live on the Facebook. Hey, look here. If you look up here, the old gang is back together.
Hey, the legends are back. Hey,
Well, here you go.
hey, big boy.
What? Did I get your pen?
Yeah.
Sorry about that. I got my notes over here. Look, hey, surprise guest today. It's me, a.k.a. the Weatherman, and we're going to have an interesting topic. Didn't put much of a headline on there, but it's 1 o'clock. It's Wednesday. That means it's time for Real Estate 101. Weatherman, who would you like to give a shout out to?
You know what that means? You know, this year has been a fantastic year. We have so many people to thank, but other than all of our vendors, everybody we work for, really what I want to thank this year is our team. How we come together as a unit, how we had a successful year, as we went through some ups and downs and everything we had to go through. We've just got a great team, and you know what happens when you have great teams?
Great things happen.
Great things happen. That's exactly right. So I want to thank our whole entire team.
We do have a good team.
From the top to the bottom, and from the bottom to the top. We appreciate each and every one of you.
Josh Harold, the boys are back in town. Yes. Hey, if you're on here, please do me a favor. Like, comment, and share the stream. There's 16 people on here. We would love to have 160 people on
160.
here. Danielle, hey, thank you so much. I hope you tell people to watch us. Andre, howdy. Drew says, good to see you. Usually Drew is on here. Drew is out in the field. Where are you right?
That's why he's not here.
Drew,
He's
where?
mad.
Oh, hey, he's angry. Good. We do have good leadership. The Weatherman and Van, they're our leaders.
Hey, and Kendall.
And Kendall. Now, we brought Kendall in here. If you're a real estate agent or if you're somebody, hey, John, I appreciate you getting on here. Stevie Z, hey, how are you?
He's back in the week. Stevie,
how are you,
still
Stevie? How are you, fella?
We miss you.
What kind of COVID test did Stevie get? Did he get one all the way up his nose or like baby up in there?
Man, I think Stevie, when they did it backwards, he went through his ear. So I don't know if it's accurate or not.
Man, I would be one of those people. Hey, look, Danny Ward's on here.
Danny!
He likes the bow tie.
Danny, this is for you, big boy.
Now, we need
You asked for us back. We back.
He says I'm good. Zena's on here. Man, we got a lot of people on here. Thank you for getting on here. What we're going to talk about today, boy, here's what's crazy. Weatherman, me and Weatherman have been doing this for maybe 5 years. How long have we been doing this?
A long time.
I remember when we first did this, I take this very serious.
It was like kindergartners.
Weatherman would pull up 12:58, 12. I'm over here sweating, pissed off. Where you at? He comes in, no preparation. And to this day, he never prepares for it. It's just completely.
I can show him my notes.
It's completely, hey, Mama, Happy New Year to you. Love you. To this day, it's unrehearsed, off the cuff. And that probably makes for more entertaining. So we go through a lot of scenarios, and I think there's a lot of good things that we could share that we go through that maybe will help people if they ever want to buy a house.
Yep.
And I've brought Kendall in here with us to maybe answer some questions. So I'm going to ask the Weatherman some questions, and he's going to tell me after the question whose responsibility this would be. You can play a part in this, Kendall, because a lot of times things come down to gray areas. And the gray areas are going to be resolved by your ethical obligation to yourself. So here's what I'm going to talk about.
Do you know what's fun?
What?
Walking that gray line. It's a little sketchy, but it's fun.
You know who? It's funny who gets in all the trouble about us walking the gray line. Weatherman is the one that always is the fall guy.
I mean, easing this way or going this way.
Weatherman, I don't know why he did that. I don't know why. Weatherman, don't tell me what you did. Okay. If you represent a buyer, question one, if you've got a question or scenario, like to hear it. If you're representing a buyer, that means you're a buyer's agent, and the seller leaves the home in a mess, and you did a formal walkthrough, and now they're in the home. Who's responsible for this big cleanup, this mess? And what if it costs money? You have been through this.
Yes. Do it. Is that what you want me to answer?
It's your turn.
It is our responsibility as the buyer's agent, because one of the things we have to do, if it means we have to go back up there just to double check, We also have to make sure that we put it in the contract that it's in there. Now, just because it's in there and they don't do it, then it's our responsibility to make sure it's taken care of and then address that with the selling agent. Everything always comes back on us because that is our duty, our fiduciary duty to our clients to make sure they get what they wanted. Anybody that passes the blame that's just an excuse, and that's something you just don't do. You either got to fork out the money to get it fixed, or you got to make sure you go up there to make sure it's right before they close.
Okay, well, this same question, Weatherman, if you're representing the seller and your seller leaves the house a wreck, do you have more of an obligation to get it fixed than the buyer's agent?
Yeah, I mean, yes, if you're a great agent, you should get it fixed. I mean, if your seller leaves the house in a mess, you ought to go by there before you close. But see, the problem is the real estate agents, we're not thinking about going by the house. We're thinking about going where?
To the next deal.
To that title company.
Oh, to get paid.
Get that check. So we don't think about, let's take a quick run by to see if everything's in order for the next folks coming in or for our folks moving in. And sometimes that's something that we really ought to do. That's what's called ethics.
Kendall, in this situation, is there any legal obligations that you could think of that we need to be aware of?
Well, you've got to take your buyer through the final walkthrough. And, if anything's not done, that's the time to get it done before you close. Unless you have something else in writing that it needs to be done. Because once you close on that house, you're saying you're accepting the house as is.
Yep.
And so the seller really, unless they've breached contract somehow, and there's something in the contract that they've not done, the buyer's accepted the house as is.
Here's the biggest thing that happens in those situations. So I do a final walkthrough, and the house has 2 truckloads with 30 minutes worth of stuff in the house. So I call the selling agent and say, hey, look, they want this is supposed to be clean. They said, look, they're just running behind. I'll make sure they get it done. We can just go ahead and go to closing. It'll be taken care of. But see, our mindset is still on going to that closing instead of saying, well, I tell you what, we're just not going to close. We're just going to go down the road, get us a bite to eat, because I want to make sure my buyers get what they asked for. But we don't do that. We take everybody's word for it. The next thing you know, the buck stops here, and then we end up doing it. And whenever you leave, if you're an agent and you leave and that house isn't clean, and you take somebody else's word for it, it doesn't matter who says it. It is on you because you left with your client to sign a piece of paper saying we're accepting it as is, and it is your responsibility.
All right, good job, Weatherman and Kendall. If you guys have any questions in the audience or on the TV here, throw them at us.
Like 1970s rock, any of that stuff.
Number 2, buyer closes on their home. You represent the buyer or the seller. Buyer closes on the home, and then 10 days later, their AC goes out. Now, see, a lot of people, before you answer this, Weatherman, I want to say this. If I represented a buyer and that happened to them, why do we feel like we're kind of responsible for that?
Because we feel like we didn't do our job. We feel bad. I mean, we feel like it's just something happens. And also, it's because we didn't do the job we should have done. We didn't say the thing that should have been said. Like, hey, just want to let you know, if you're accepting this house just like it is with a 12-year-old unit, a unit can go out at any time. I just want you to know, and you're aware of, if it goes out 30 minutes after you move in, it's up to you to fix it. Are you good with that? If you want to come back and ask them to give us some money for AC unit, then we can do that. But all I can tell you, but see, we don't do a good enough job about articulating those things until they come up.
Weatherman, you gave me an idea. Van, I want you to make this happen. In these walkthroughs y'all do before closing, you just walk through the house and you're looking at shit. You really need to have this conversation. That ought to be in our thing, and let them know, hey, once you take this house,
Great idea.
I'll take credit.
You're back.
That was my
You're back.
I think you ought to go through there and tell them about home ownership and the responsibilities that comes with. Once you close on this, now, what did you say, Kendall? What was your thing? Once you
You're
close,
accepting the house as it is, yeah.
but today more than ever, people want to sue you. people now are wanting to sue, but what's going to happen is they're going to sue you and they're going to lose, and they're going to see that. That will happen more and more.
Yeah, you can have all the paperwork in the world, but at the end of the day, you still have a reputation. You still have to maybe possibly see them or have to realize social media is a grizzly bear. I mean, believe me, we've been on the good side and the bad side of it.
Let me tell the story.
There you go.
A couple of years ago, me and my wife and we were about to go out to the Heart Ball. And I was dressed up.
Hey, in a bow tie.
I had on a tie. I was drinking. And somebody, probably Roy Frazier, somebody sends me a text.
It's probably Roy Frazier.
And it's like, man, you need to check this out. And this girl had gone onto social media and she was dogging a builder that we represented, and she put in there, how can this Good Time Tommy guy represent him? And it was shared, I ain't kidding you, like 300 times.
Yeah.
I mean, this is one of the most, like, I've never been through anything like this. I was terrified. Called up, reached out to her. I was doing whatever I could. John Jones, Roy Frazier, you better do whatever you have to calm her down. Joy Richardson's the only one that said, hey, man, you need to find out the facts before you just jump in here and try to save the day. So I took my buddy out there, Derek Godwin. He looked at what needed to be done on their property because water was coming on it. Well, she didn't say in her post that the reason why the water was coming onto her house is because they lived on this river and her husband knocked down a tree that blocked the flow of the river or the creek. All people saw on social media was it looked like her house was a houseboat. And it looked like it was our fault, so me and Weatherman had to pay to have the yard done. And guess what? Guess what we were told in return?
I'm making those posts.
Not a damn thing. Nothing. So because of that fear, we have fear of being attacked because that's our livelihood.
Yeah.
And because of that, I was trying to put out this fire. I should have investigated before I just jumped up and tried to save the day.
And sometimes whenever we see the negative post, we panic so much, we throw something at it. But guess what? Just wait about 30 minutes, maybe an hour, or social media. There's going to be another negative post, and you're going to be old news. There'll be some new news out there.
They'll forget you. Number 3, and people in the audience, if you've got any questions, I'd like to know. Seller does repairs from a home inspection list, and the repairs that were fixed properly, but after closing, they started leaking again, or the repairs were found not working properly. Could be a leak. It could be something that they fixed. So let's say they've been in the house 2 weeks and the repairs weren't fixed. Who's responsible for that, Kendall?
Well, that's the seller. Now we're in breach of contract if we had it on a repair amendment, that they were supposed to make sure these were repaired in a professional-like manner. And that's
I'm glad I know that. So
Well-
that's part of the contract?
That's on the repair amendment, that, these things need to be paid, or need to be fixed in a workman, or in a, professional
Yeah.
manner. And that's why it's good to get a professional contractor out there, because he can call that contractor back to come and fix it and make it right, whereas if the seller's doing it themselves, it's
Exactly
not,
right.
and of course, I don't know if you'd want the seller to do it themselves anyway, because depending on what they're doing, they may or may not be qualified, and they're gonna use the cheapest, quickest.
So that brings up a great question. So if I'm representing a buyer that has the issues because repairs didn't work, well, guess what? Chances are I end up letting the seller use a handyman. Guess what I didn't do as an agent?
You didn't look out for their best interest.
Exactly right. Now to have somebody come out there and inspect it to make sure the work was done right. You know why?
Because you was looking for that
I was
check.
I was worried about that title company. I was wanting to close early. Well, I get paid that day. If you close before 12, there's a good chance you'll get a check before 4.
Get a little cash
Yeah,
out.
you just kind of you just rushing on through.
We're just keeping it real. Some people might be offended by that, but hey, that's
because
the way.
we don't think about these things because these things are minute until something comes up and hits you. But at the end of the day, they're not calling the sellers. They're not calling the sellers repair people. They're calling you because you represented them.
Now this brings me to another question. Don't be cheating at my notes.
I ain't looked at it.
Okay, this is something agents don't think about. For some reason, agents like to stay loyal to their vendors. So let's say if we are representing a builder, we represent a lot of new construction, and the contract states you need to close with our title company or the builder's choice of title company. And let's say your agent is worried about their interest and they want to close with their own title company. Hey, I get it. I understand. And they close on Friday. Wait a minute, knows wrong. He's about to take this question. Let's say they close at 4 o'clock. Separate title companies. Josh, what do you think happens if you represent a buyer and you close your side at 4 o'clock? You represent.
Friday,
Yeah.
you don't get that check till next Monday.
Oh.
Hey,
That's
I like,
easy.
hey,
I like how you
hey,
think.
He went for the check thing.
I like that.
Wrong, hey, wrong answer. Wrong
I
answer.
like that,
but
Josh.
I like it.
Got to worry about your money, Josh. If
I
you ain't
like it.
worried
Buyers
about
can't
it.
move in until Monday.
There you go.
Now, see, a lot of agents they may not like this, but tell us whether man. I'll let
So
you.
what happens is agents say, yeah, it's okay. I've explained. I've done this. They have not explained. They have not done this. So now they got U-Hauls in it. They got all these things. They're calling. They're blowing it up. We can't get in the house. Well, hey, I told you, agent, but at the end of the day, that falls, if I represent them and we close at my title company, our teams have converted to closing with new construction, their title company, just as a respect for our buyers to make sure when we close, we get the keys. But hey, can I go a little bit deeper?
Hey, Andrew, of course.
Can I go a little bit deeper?
Yes.
Here's one thing that agents don't do either. If you're a new agent out there and you don't know this, you also need to be also trying to make sure that you can work on getting the funding done the day before. Because there's a thing called wire and wire times, and when they come in, the money comes in. And then when it doesn't come in, so let's just say they don't close till 1 o'clock or they didn't start doing it till the next day, then the money's not there and we have the same scenario. So you want to start making sure, do your job, call a title company. Hey, has the wire come in? What are we missing? What do we need to do? Go that extra mile to make sure that we got the wire done, all the money sitting in the title company, and as soon as we sign them papers, you get keys, everybody gets checks, and Josh, then we get that money.
You get paid. Get that money. All right, moving right along here. This is something that we've had to deal with a lot with the limited inventory, especially in lower price points. And that's sometimes, if you're representing a buyer, you're not just competing now with the seller in their price. You're competing now against multiple offers where you've got to stand out. And sometimes to get a house, you're going to have to go in with the cleanest, the hardest to say no to offer. And sometimes that's made simple. They just elect not to do a home inspection. Then they win the deal. Then they're in the house, and then they notice problems. Been through this several times. What is the situation? I think this goes back to what you were talking about earlier. But how do we need to handle that? And who's at fault there?
So here's the one thing you remember. So at the front end, there's a lot of excitement. They'll do whatever you want. It doesn't matter. They're excited. Yeah, I'm good with that. No problem.
Do anything to get that house.
Because they don't have the leverage with you. After it's closed and done, leverage switches hands. When leverage switches hands, power switches hands. And then that's where problems come in. So what happens is a lot of times, even though they said that let me give you an example. Let's just say we bought a house at $220,000, no home inspection. They told us they didn't want one. They got tired of losing one. And then all of a sudden they moved in and got $6,000 worth of damages. The first thing they're going to say is, well, I expected my agent, they're the professionals, to tell me about this or what to do. So if you don't have documentation, text messages, everything to cover your tail, you can still have a contract with everything in it, but that still doesn't mean that they won't take you to court. You know.
We need something in writing that says you made the decision. You do not want the home inspection. Do we have that in the contract?
Don't we have something?
Yeah, we've got get a home inspection. All of our buyers are required to sign the TAR form, get a home inspection.
Will that always be
property
enough?
survey. I mean, I would think so, and then we also have the disclaimer notice, and then there's also a smaller disclaimer in the actual purchase and sale agreement. But, yeah, I would almost never, ever, unless they're just buying a house to demo it,
Yeah.
or unless they're buying a house that's only a couple years old, I mean, I would almost never recommend not getting a home inspection, at least for informational purposes, you know, so where, look, I'll take it on as a pass-fail, but you just never know.
Yeah. Here's the one way that you protect yourself. So, yes, that paperwork is good. But what you also need to do is make sure you follow up with some kind of text saying, I just want to clarify that you are wanting to buy this just as is. Because what they're going to say, what could be said, and I don't want to blame anybody, is, well, hey, Ashley told me that don't get a home inspection. And this is, when you go to court, it's a year and a half later, and I'm gonna ask Ashley, say, Ashley, you got that in a text anywhere? You got that proving you didn't say that? And Ashley's gonna say, well, no, I didn't.
No,
put
but I
that
told
down."
him. I know
I
it.
had a conversation with him.
But I had the conversation with him. Well, when you get up in front of a jury, I can tell you this right now, the jury leads toward the buyer or seller, not toward the real estate agents, because we are professionals.
How much are home inspections normally?
They vary.
No, Carl's got a question. What if you have a bad home inspector? Okay, I've got that as a question here. What if the agent recommends a home inspector and their inspector misses something?
Well, so here's the biggest problem. That's where you gotta be real careful about recommending home inspectors. All you can say is we have a list that we use from, but I encourage you to Google it, do your own research, and use who you want. This is who we use, but if you like to use somebody else, then I encourage you to do your own research. Because then the number one thing says, Josh, how many numbers are there in a disclaimer? How many points are there in a disclaimer?
I don't know.
Well, there you go. That's the problem. That's okay. So a lot doesn't get the answer. So one of the things that agents do not do is go through that disclaimer and explain. That disclaimer keeps you out of jail. That disclaimer tells you all those things that you're not allowed to do. Tell them about home inspection. Tell them about schools. Tell them about easements, encroachments, and all those things. But you know what we do? Sign right here. Sign right here. Sign right here. Because you know what we're looking to get done, Josh?
Get that check.
Get that check, baby.
That deposit slip out. Tammy Burton loves your bow tie. The Rabbit is on here. Hey, let's give a big shout out to Rabbit, Agent of the Year over here. Congratulations.
I knew I would come up here and still get outshined by the rabbit.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Hey, I mean.
Well, look, Belinda said looking sharp weather, man.
Thank you. We dressed up for it. Tommy made me dress up.
Look, we're over. We're 2 minutes over already. I like to keep this at 2 minutes. But here I do have a takeaway. And this is something I didn't think about until Stephen said this. I do think a lot of the reasons why agents will feel responsible after the process, after the closing, and they get that phone call is because of what he said. These things were not addressed before.
Yeah.
And if you would take the time and have the courage to have this conversation, there's no way they can come back and really justify blaming you because you've set their expectations. But we don't do that. We want to keep moving forward with little to no discomfort. But like Stephen is saying, this is when you have more leverage in these situations. Once they close.
Yes.
And once they start talking to their friends about the problems that they have, it's scary.
Yeah. The one thing you got to do is you have to protect yourself in a transaction. Now we're at a average sales price of getting close to $300,000. This is a big deal for a lot of people. You have to make sure that you protect yourself. You double check it. You make sure they know it. So if you have text or you talk to them and you have something in writing, it's very hard for them to come back and say, hey, you told me there was going to be, this playground was going to stay in the backyard. Now I want a playground. My kids are crying. They thought they was going to get a playground. Miss Smith, no, if you remember, because I got the text right here, I'll show you. I told you, I said, you remember I showed you, look at this right here. It says the playground will not stay. They're taking it with them because they have kids. Also, we have in their contract, playground doesn't stay. So then guess what happened? Now what do they say? Oh, yes, right. Okay.
right.
I'm sorry. I must have forgot that. But I'm glad you brought that to it.
You got to be like those little court reporters. I'm telling you, I'm the worst at this. Okay,
Right.
I say a lot of stuff around here that could get me in trouble. Like I posted China doll. 10 people came to me like, dude, what the hell are you thinking?
Yeah.
I mean, my comment, Kendall, you could probably file law. I'm somebody that's probably like, listen to this guy saying this, but I'm telling you, whenever you're working for people, you're hired from them to protect their interest.
Yeah.
And once it's over, don't matter if you're friends or not, people are going to say, you need to get an attorney. And that happens. And it's going to happen more and more, like Danielle says, cover your own ass.
We heard this year was one of the worst years for lawsuits. And I will tell you this, I was probably worse than Tommy. Whenever you go through a situation and you learn things, it opens your eyes to realize how much you could have done more just to protect yourself. We got text messaging and phone. So when I had my phone taken and they took all the text messages off, you can do these things to protect yourself. Always reiterate in some kind of form of that you have proof.
I've been through 2 lawsuits. I'm still in one right now. And the way you're going to feel when you're going through these lawsuits, if you're named, you're guilty. Now it's your job to produce evidence that you're not guilty. And you could have just
Did
straight
you tell
up.
I'm representing you?
You could have.
We got a good shot of winning it.
I think we're going to get over this.
Yeah.
You could have great conversations with people, but a third party's going to hear this. They're not a part of those conversations, and it don't matter. So always, always protect yourself. That's all I've got. Weatherman, you shut us down, friend.
Well, hey, guys, I want to tell you that, so this year has, I know we talked about some crazy situations. So this year, because it's a real estate show, and in the real estate market, we've had a crazy, unpredictable, great year, ups and downs, didn't know what's going to happen, things on back order, prices going up. But you know what? All I know is to remember this, that if you fix on negativity, you will never be a good salesperson. If you fix your mind on positivity, and no matter in any situation, you can be a great salesperson and strive and thrive, then don't worry about who the president is. Don't worry about what the economy is. Don't worry about any of these things. All you have to do is learn to adapt. When you can learn to adapt, you will always be successful. So we've had a great 2020. I see a remarkable 2021. We want to thank each and every one of our vendors, our clients, every agent that we worked with and had a great time with. Some other ones that were mad at us, we were mad at them. We still appreciate you, and we look forward to doing many, many more with you in the years to come and continue to strive to our goal.
Imagine if I wasn't so damn negative. Woo! I'd be, hey, there ain't no telling how my life would be. I've gotten better. I've gotten a lot better at my negativity. Gotten a lot better.
I would agree.
Shut us down, Von Grafton. Happy New Year.